Welcome to Ground Up Growth, where we share entrepreneurial insights, business strategies, and personal growth lessons to help listeners build success from the ground up.
Welcome back to Ground Up Growth. Today's guest is Ms. Grace Sturdivant with OtoPro Technologies. It is a hearing protection service company here based
right here.
Right here in
Ridgeland, Mississippi. We'll say if we want to get specific.
Grace, thank you so much for coming on. We're looking forward to unpacking your story. So tell us a little bit about where you're from and how in the world you got into the audio business, audiology.
You got it.
So break down OtoPro, because we talked about that.
Sure.
Oto is short for...
Oto is the medical prefix for ear.
Okay.
So an otologist is a medical doctor that specializes in the ear.
Otologist. See, we're learning stuff right out the gate.
That's right. So OTO is the medical prefix for ear.
Okay.
And pro is professional protection. You know, I say it came to me in church. So it's meant to be.
It's got to be.
But yes, OtoPro. Backing up, first of all, thank you for having me here.
Absolutely.
I've listened to your previous episodes. I love what you're doing, and I'm going to be a subscriber and a listener for
thank you.
a long time to come.
We need that.
I appreciate it. I'm also a little bit intimidated because I've heard some of these amazing business stories, and I feel like mine is so simple in comparison. But when we break it down, maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't.
Oh, no. I'm sure this is going to be good.
But I was born and raised in Grenada, Mississippi.
Okay.
And both my parents are entrepreneurial. My dad's an attorney. My mom is a speech pathologist, but she has worked in many different settings, from private practice to schools to hospital administration. So she's always been a self-starter and also never missed a beat as a mother. So I draw a lot of inspiration from her as this balancing act of motherhood. I've got 3 young children now.
Yeah, that's...
I thought I wanted to be a speech pathologist, and I was in school at Ole Miss, and I was in one of those classes for speech pathology where we had to take an audiology course. And in that course, we watched a documentary about a child who had been born deaf to hearing parents, which is what happens in the vast majority of cases of deaf children. They have hearing parents. And this family had decided to pursue a cochlear implant so that their child could hear through the cochlear implant and hopefully learn to speak verbally and use verbal communication. And the child in the documentary was about 6 years old. And after the surgery, she sat down in the audiologist chair for the audiologist to program that hearing device, the cochlear implant. And the parents were standing behind the child. And at the moment of activation, after she'd done all the programming and everything, and she was about to turn it on, the audiologist told everybody in the room to be quiet. And then she looked at the mom and said, "When I turn this on and point to you, I want you to say her name." And the mom who's standing behind her, I mean, I still get choked up.
Yeah.
The mom who's standing behind the child says her name, and that child's head whips around like it's on a swivel. Oh. And that was the first sound she ever heard.
Goodness.
Now, no meaning was attached to that sound because she had never heard sound before. She didn't have language, but she whipped that head around and turned to her mom's voice. And of course, everybody's just in a puddle of tears.
I'm sure.
And I just thought, my nickname in preschool was Chatterbox. I love music. I love talking to people and communicating with people. And I could absolutely spend my life's work helping people to do that.
You're in your lane.
In my lane. I mean, just in my zone. So I pursued audiology after that. I couldn't get enough of it. I was studying more than what I even had to for my classes. I went from a 2-year beach vacation at the College of Charleston, which is what my dad calls it, to transferring back to Ole Miss. And then studying and just not only making 4.0, but just can't get enough of this, of how we hear with our brains and the anatomy and physiology of it was
That's super unique, though. You don't hear that. Most people are like, I'm a perfect example. Like, I don't know what I'm doing in college. I don't have any plan or roadmap.
Well, I didn't until then, really.
But you're like, all right.
I was like, here we go.
Did you see, like, before that, are you a passionate person? Like, you can get passionate about things? Or was
Can
it
you
like,
tell? Is it that obvious?
or was it like that clicked? Like, what were you kind of like in high school?
I would say
like,
both. And I mean, I've always had kind of outgoing personality, and I love people. I've become more of an introvert with age and with children, just because, you know, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
But I've always been more of an extrovert, and I want to be where the people are and that sort of thing. So, when I knew I wanted to do audiology, I started researching programs. Vanderbilt University Medical School houses what has been the #1 program in audiology for many years. Most of the research is coming out of there. And so I applied on a long shot. And true to my personality, they didn't have an interview as part of the process. So I just made one. I called up the department chair.
Of course.
I said, you know, do you have any time? I'm going to be traveling through Nashville with my family, and I would love to see the program and talk to you about why I want to be a part of this program. And I did that. And so I created an interview process for myself. And then I ended up getting in with a partial scholarship, which I was just like,
So they didn't just let you in. You also got a scholarship.
no. Mind blown, though.
They're like, this girl's all in.
Mind blown. But that's honestly a lot of times my advice to people that are applying to schools. This is such a communication driven profession. You've got to be able to talk to people. And you get a lot of people that go to audiology school, to be honest, who stereotypically are very techie and nerdy. And I felt like it was like the set of Legally Blonde with me walking in the first day of class, like 10 people. We got like, of those 10 people, one was from Singapore, one was from Thailand. I mean,
Really?
And here I am in my hot pink sorority t-shirt walking in with like makeup on and hair done. And I was like, I called my parents. I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm not like the rest of the people here.
That's funny. So
But
how long were you
creating
so
that
you-
interview? I think really sealed the deal, got me into Vanderbilt, where I received an excellent education and still maintained communication with a number of my professors there. So that was a
So how long
good
was that
track for me.
process? I mean, years, because you're a
It's
doctor, right?
Right. I'm a doctor of audiology. So it's a 4-year program to get your doctorate in audiology after your undergraduate degree.
Wow.
So the 4th year of that is a paid externship. And by the time my 4th year rolled around, I'd met my husband, who's from the Delta, but who runs a family business that's based here. And so we wanted to get married. And even though I swore I was never leaving Nashville and I had my plan, I mean, you know, all that went out the window because I wanted to marry my husband. And moved down here, got an externship at UMC, and then stayed on. That's University of Mississippi Medical Center for people who
right.
might be listening, not from here. Did my 4th year externship there and then stayed on as faculty after that. So I was in the ear, nose, and throat department, diagnosing and treating hearing loss. And my area of specialty and my research interest developed to be working with older patients who had both some level of dementia and hearing loss. And what was coming out in the research at that time, was the interplay and the negative synergy between hearing loss and dementia. And so we were seeing faster rates of decline when you had untreated hearing loss, earlier onset of dementia when you have untreated hearing loss. And what I was seeing was that I would have patients who came in with their families and they had been verbally administered a screening test for dementia. They had been tested into a certain category of dementia. They would come to see me, and through the process of getting proper amplification and being able to hear to the best of their ability, they'd go get tested and come back and be in a less severe category of dementia.
So hearing loss is directly correlated with dementia?
Directly correlated with dementia.
Really?
So I started taking what was coming out in the research and writing translational articles, meaning I was taking all this techie data and then putting it into papers that audiologists could use in the real world in clinic.
Did you enjoy writing papers? It's okay to say.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, I don't, there's a sense of accomplishment that comes from writing a good paper and taking data and putting it into something that's more digestible for people.
You know, I did not write one paper in college.
How?
I never wrote one paper.
Did you pay somebody to write them or something?
No, I never had to do them. Never had to do it.
What'd you major in?
Management of construction and land development. And then they did away with my degree after we left. Did not write one paper.
You know, it worked out okay for you.
So I'm like, I got a buddy of mine that's a preacher and he's still writing papers. And I'm like, he's in deep into, you know, seminary to
I mean,
fifth
it
degree.
requires shutting everything else off and being totally focused on
Oh, I
what you're
couldn't.
writing. So, but I'm a
not.
reader. I love to read. I devour
That's awesome.
books, and I'm really into literary fiction, and so I mean, I like that.
Yeah.
But it's the technical research data and putting that into something that reads more readable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty
challenge.
intense.
So, but I started doing that. And so then UMC was picked as one of 4 data collection sites across the country for a research study out of Johns Hopkins called the Achieve Study. And the Achieve Study was looking at those correlations. So we were taking people and testing their hearing, and it was a long-term study looking at how they did with hearing aids. All that data was pointing to the conclusions that we need to be diagnosing and treating hearing loss earlier, getting proper hearing aids on people earlier to maintain that auditory stimulation, which I won't get into because I could do a 3-hour lecture on what happens in the brain. But basically, you want to keep the auditory cortex stimulated with auditory input. So you can do that with hearing aids. And that thereby could
So
delay the
getting
onset
hearing
and
aids
reduce the rate.
before you need hearing aids. Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
getting hearing aids as soon as you need hearing aids.
Okay.
Even, the data even shows that for mild to moderate hearing loss, the long-term outcomes of your brain and cognitive health are going to be improved.
So that probably spurred you writing all
Yes.
them
So
articles
I'm-
and stuff spurred.
So I'm working on this research study, and I grew up in a hunting family. My dad hunts everything and cooks everything and does all that stuff. And so I was trying to get my dad to come in to. He wasn't wearing hearing aids yet. He needed them, but he didn't wear them. But I said, please come in, make an appointment. We can go over all the options out there. There are some great options out there. You just don't know about them for earplugs that'll help you hear better and protect you. Well, my dad, who put me through school, would not take the time out of his busy schedule to come and sit in that clinic. So I was like, well, dadgum. Okay. So then I'm at dinner one night with some friends, and I'm telling them about hearing protection and how important it is. The guys that were with us were all hunters. And I said, all you have to do is come see me in clinic, and I'll mold your ears for a custom fit, and we'll order some great products for you. Then you'll come back in 2 weeks and pick them up, because through UMC we couldn't ship a medical
Right.
device. And they're sitting there and they're like, I mean, I'm not going to leave work to come do that. But
Not
if you'll
for my
come,
hearing.
but they were like, but if you'll come to the camp this weekend, I'll have a dozen people sitting there, and I'm sure everybody would do it. Ding,
Yeah.
light bulb.
Yeah.
So I was vice chief of audiology at the time at UMC. You would think I could get this done, right? I'm like, this is brilliant. This is going to be our marketing arm. We can go out in the community, nights and weekends. We can go to these like Ducks Unlimited banquets and go out to people's hunting camps. We can outfit everybody. And then we get people through the doors of our clinics so that we can diagnose and treat earlier and
Right.
improve those
Right, right,
outcomes.
right.
Well, there was so much red tape. Oh, you can't collect money off site. Well, how are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? Nobody's going to spend that much money on earplugs. And I'm going,
I'll just do it.
yes, they will. Yes, they will. So then I went through, they didn't even think it was a conflict of interest. I mean, I met with the department chair. I'm like, here's what I want to do. He's like, you can do that, but you're not doing it through UMC. I'm like, all right, okay. Well, I sat down at my kitchen table. By Monday morning, I had papers filed for an LLC. I'm sitting in church the following Sunday, come up with the name. I order my little supplies with a couple of $100 out of my checking account. And here we go. And but it wasn't a plan. It was truly something, a service that I wanted to offer to my friends and family, because I genuinely wanted them to have access to these products, because
That's
I
just
believe
like-
in what it's going to do for them.
Like Shark Tank, they always preach about finding the need, like
Yep.
creating
And
the
go
business
where it
based out of
is.
the need. And like the need came in your lap. You're like, somebody's going to do it. I'm going to do it.
I wasn't trying to make a buck. I never thought I would quit my day job to do this. In fact, and I'll back up a little bit and I'll say, when I was working at UMC, I'd had my third baby. And the nature of the work at a place like UMC is you've got people driving, sometimes using government transportation to drive for 3-4 hours to get to their appointment that was set 6 months ago. So if I've got a sick kid, I can't just call in.
Yeah.
If I learned that, the Christmas program at the preschool is going to be at 10 a.m. on Friday, and I learned about that 2 weeks before, well, guess what? I had to put in 35 days notice
Oh,
to block my schedule for
goodness.
even 1 hour. but it's because of the patients that we
the
serve
demand,
and the scheduling nightmares that it causes. And so when I was having to miss stuff, I'm so grateful for my time there. I learned so much, and it gave me such a clinical foundation for
Right.
what I'm doing now. But as a mom, I remember like praying through tears. I want this career. I believe in what I'm doing, but I also want to raise my children. And I
Right.
want to be here. I don't want to be missing stuff. And my mom had set a really high bar.
Yeah.
She had set a high bar because I saw her excel and thrive and help so many people in her career. But she also
Was
like
a
came to every
mom.
pep rally.
Yeah.
And I look
That's
back and I'm
tough.
like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
And so in a way, it almost set an unhealthy
Yeah.
bar for myself because it's gotten harder. It's gotten
That's
harder to
tough.
be a mom. It's gotten harder to be a mom in business.
Yeah.
And but I just remember that prayer. I was like, I just need something. And I had no idea that this
OtoPro.
business was the direct answer to that prayer. It was probably a year later when I had that light bulb moment of like, this could really be something. Like what?
Yeah.
And then, so it was 2018 when I started it. 2021 was when it had grown to the point of being an obvious conflict of interest. And so I did not renew my contract at UMC at that time.
OtoPro. I mean, UMC. This is Grace. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So 2021, you're like all in, step over onto it all in.
And timeline wise, note that, COVID, while it was such
Oh
a
yeah, let's talk about
terrible
Yeah.
time in the world that we all lived through, OtoPro soared
that. Really?
during COVID. Well, think about it. If you want a social distance, you go out in the woods.
Right.
So, like my time in Nashville, I'd gotten to know a number of musicians and recording artists, and their tours were getting canceled.
So let me ask you this real quick. So you mentioned the pain points of like getting your dad to show up to like come up there to get looked at.
Which he never did. I fit him at
So
his
I would
kitchen
think
table.
COVID would double down on it. To me, it seems like it'd be even harder to get people to show up. So with OtoPro soaring at that time, did you have to go afield? Is that what the?
Oh, I went afield a lot.
Yeah.
I traveled a lot. And the first several years, you talk about not wanting to miss stuff with your kids. Do not get me wrong. It took a lot of sacrifice for me
Right.
to build the brand to where I
Yes.
am now, which is where I say no to a lot of things.
Yes.
And I've got a really strict minimum sales agreement before I get on a plane to fly to you. So,
Right.
but I said yes to everything for a few years.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Yeah.
but during COVID, so much was getting canceled. People couldn't go to work. They couldn't go out on their tours as musicians, and they were getting back out in the woods for the first time in a long time. And people who grew up hunting, but hadn't hunted in years, were getting back out there. And but word just was spreading by word of mouth, honestly. The National Sporting Clay Association.
People were hearing about it.
People were hearing the nunch about it. The National Sporting Clays Association, the clay shooting world, is a world I did not grow up around, but it is a big,
I didn't even think about that.
Big deal. And we have Providence Hill right here in our
Like
backyard.
I'm a huge hunter, but I don't care to go to skeet shooting. We get invited to these. I mean, I go to a few of them here and there, but like it's just not my jam. Like,
It's a fun
but it
world.
is a huge.
It's great people. I've gotten to know some amazing people. I went and set up a vendor booth they hosted the South Central Regional Clay Shoot at Providence Hill not long after I got started. And I went out there and set up a tent.
That's the best place to be for you.
Oh, it's gorgeous out there. It's beautiful. And I'm out there, and these people from all over the country are coming by. And this guy, Doug Kirkendall, he's from Texas, and he had a company that sold some really high-end ammunition. And he was on this circuit. He was a clay shooter himself. And he and I just struck up a friendship. And, during the slow times of that shoot, he'd come sit with me, and he was learning all about it. He's like, no, he's just a character. But he told me, he said, if you will fly out to San Antonio for the Nationals, don't pay for a vendor booth or anything. You can come just set up in my space that I already have squared away, and I will have a list ready of people lined up to come see you. What you're doing, nobody else is doing. we all need this. Come on. I showed up with a backpack of supplies, and I walked up, and he wasn't kidding. He had a line of people waiting on me, and they were from all over the country. And I came home and I was like, okay, whoa. And my husband sat down, he's got the fancy business degree and all this, and he's just shaking his head like, what are we doing? What's the plan?
Right.
I'm like, there is no plan. We're just doing it. And he just couldn't stand, neither one of us saw this coming. Because then how do you scale a service? I needed to physically touch every client's head for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes to clean their ears out, look in their ears, mold their ears, do whatever I needed to do.
Yeah.
How do you scale that? Because then once these people went back home, they're telling people, now I'm getting calls from all over the country. I'm like, all right, well, round up some of your buddies. Let's see if we can do some back of the napkin math to make the numbers work so it's worth it for me to fly out there to your club.
Yeah. I can't come out there to see one person.
Right. So I started doing that. But then when it was just a one-off and they lived off in Kalamazoo somewhere, I would get on my American Academy of Audiology website and start looking for credentialed clinics in that town. And I pretended like I was finding a clinic for my best friend or my sister or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would call up these clinics and I would ask them questions about their practice and make sure that it was somewhere that I felt really good about sending people. And one by one started building this network of clinics who I would refer people to. They would do all the in-person stuff right there. And then I would email that client a prepaid mailing label. So they would put their little ear mold impressions in a box and ship them to me. And then I'd send that to the manufacturer and do the rest. And I thought, well, okay, one by one, we're going to do this. Well, now we've got close to 450 of those across the U.S. and Canada.
Wow.
A couple in Australia, a couple in the U.K. But it started just like that.
So Johnny in Amarillo hears about it, and he says, Grace, I need to get these. I'm one guy, and I don't have a deer camp full of buyers here. You refer them to a audiology clinic
That's right.
in Amarillo.
That's right. We got
He
a couple
goes in
in
there,
Amarillo.
gets his ears cleaned, and gets the molds.
And he can sit for a baseline hearing test. So back to the
so
original
then you're
message, we are diagnosing and treating earlier. Because we're sending people into these clinics that they would have never even thought to go
they're prompted to go in
and
there.
they're starting that local point of care. And then I'm teeing up that clinic. So in an audiology clinic, I've thought about starting my own traditional audiology clinic millions of times. That's what I thought I was going to do when I was in grad school. And in order to do that, realistically, you've got to sell a lot of hearing aids because that's what's going to pay your bills.
Right.
And when you look at insurance reimbursement and the coding and billing and all of that, it's only going to make sense if you are focused on hearing aid sales. And it's very hard to stay abreast of all that new technology. It's constantly changing, and it's a lot just to keep up with what's going on in the hearing aid
Yeah, that's a
world.
whole nother job.
And
sounds like.
so what I offer to these clinics is I'll be your marketing arm. It's a clean agreement. I mean, I don't pay these clinics anything. They don't
That's
pay
what I
me
was
anything.
about to ask. What's that relationship like?
These clinics, I let them set their own fees for what they need to charge. I've got clinics in Los Angeles that charge a couple of $100s for that first visit. I've got clinics in the middle of nowhere in Oklahoma that charge $40 for that visit. It's truly because I couldn't just set a fee and say this is what it's worth in your clinic for this appointment. So I'm leaving the clinics with that autonomy of willingness to pay and what their hourly rate, what their time is worth
Right.
For that appointment. And then they charge that client directly at the time of service. So that is between them and that end user as far as that first appointment goes. And then what the clinics love though, is if I'm sending someone to them, that person is very likely to need hearing aids at some point. They are high risk. They probably already have some hearing loss. And so for them to go in and at least get a baseline hearing test, and they know that when they're ready,
If they have any issue with
they've
their
already
ears,
got their
they're
person.
going back to that.
if there's anything treatable medically, if there's anything outside of the actual protection, they're going to go back to that clinic for it. And so we're serving up top tier referrals to these clinics. So they love it. And they take our
gotta be getting a
calls.
referral
And
fee on
so
that.
when Jennifer in my office calls and says, "Hey, I've got a client for you," because we're service first and we we're service over product, right? We are a service company in a product category, which is a big challenge. But we call up these clinics and we say, hey, I got Paul Hopper and he needs to come see you. This is what he's ordering from us. Here's what's going on. You walk in that clinic, they know your name. They know what you're doing. They know why you're there. We try to seek out small clinics because it's easier to maintain our level of customer care as opposed to big academic medical institutions.
Yes.
We do some of them, but typically it is somebody who is going to know your name. Hey, when you want to come in, they'll call you, they'll set it up. So we try to roll out the red carpet for each one of our people. And then my biggest thing is we differentiate ourselves on service. So we sell a variety of different manufacturers. A lot of people ask if this is my product that we're selling. Over the years, we have developed some products under our own branding. And I love creative builds where it's a unique type of a situation and we put certain parts and pieces together to create a new product that specifically fits that environment. But a lot of what we do are products that are made by companies called like Defendier, which is made by Westone out in California. Sound Gear, which is based in Minneapolis by a hearing aid company named Starkey. A lot of clinics can sell those products too. You can also go to soundgear.com and order a product. There's some different players in the game that some do a lot of marketing, some don't. You can order directly through them. Why would you choose to come through us? Well, it's because we're going to be the ones to set up that fitting appointment for you. You're not left to your own devices. And then down the road, you have a question about how it works. We know it backwards and forwards. We'll walk you through it. If you're in Argentina on a hunt and you step on your right earplug and you're going, oh, shoot, we can rush you a new one because of our relationships with these manufacturers.
Right.
We can rush you a new one and overnight it to wherever you are. I mean, we've nothing short of a carrier pigeon here. People hunt in the middle of nowhere and trying to figure out how to get a replacement to people. It's a challenge, but it's also really fun and exciting. We had a guy who left his charging box at home and he was driving across the country and he posted on social media, does anybody have this? I need this. And he's a client of ours. So I called him up. I'm like, hey, where are you right now? We've got this network of clinics, you know? And so anyway, we found a little pit stop for him. It was on his path, one of our places that he could stop in and get what he needed and be on his way. So it's just like figuring out how to provide that service.
Right.
And it's like, people are like, I've got a guy for that. We're the guy for that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not a bargain shop. We're not the cheapest in town. We don't run sales and promos and that kind of stuff, but once you're in, it's like, welcome to the OtoPro family. Like we've got you. And when your ears are ringing because something happened or you've got this weird thing going on, you call us. We'll talk you through it. We'll refer you to the right person to figure it out. So we are invested in the long-term hearing health of our clients. So we have a lot of repeat buyers at this point, and we rely on word of mouth.
Referrals, right. Man, that's awesome. That's very incredible.
So that's the biggest differentiator in your company is customer service.
Because we're a service company.
Yeah.
We are. I can order you any product. I can make a new product. I can order you something that's already out there. You can trust that we are constantly evaluating worldwide what's coming out on the market, what's coming down the pipeline. And if something new comes out tomorrow that's better than what we're currently offering, we'll offer that. So staying nimble. You can imagine there was a lot that came at me during some of our bigger boosts of exposure, some of the big podcasts we've been on and stuff like that gave us big exposure, where companies really wanted, I could have significantly increased my margin by going all in and being a certain brand of product. But I would lose, the whole point is that I want to be able to curate the best of whatever's out there, the best in class of whatever's out there, and being able to be nimble and have the autonomy to pivot on a dime. I don't want to sacrifice that.
No, that's awesome. That's really good insight. And I think you've done an incredible job of, especially the marketing side of that. It's just, nobody's doing that. Nobody's marketing, like you're saying. I mean, like, you're not necessarily manufacturing the device, but you're the arm
That's right.
You're the
And
liaison.
the biggest players in electronic hearing protection, which when I say that, not everybody knows what that is. It's a custom fit in the ear product that has hearing aid circuitry in it. So you can turn the volume up on your surroundings. But then if a gun fires or something, blast goes off, you're protected from the blast.
So is that like a decibel shutoff thing, or what is that?
Yes, they have a maximum power output where typically it's around 85 to 90 decibels. And anything above that, the microphones are going to shut off. Common misconception is that electronic hearing protection is going to protect you more than a passive or just a solid earplug would. That's not true. For something as loud and especially something as fast as a gunshot, like an impulse noise like that, the active processes like active noise cancellation in your AirPods, something that fast and that loud cannot be processed by that active process.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
To dive into that just a little bit before I start glazing over, is that the sound wave's going, right? If it's a steady state sound wave where the volume fits within a certain envelope, okay? So the amplitude of the sound wave is like this. Imagine you're flying in an airplane and there's that constant rumble. It's usually around 70, 75 decibels. You've got this constant roar of the airplane. AirPods can take that sound wave, they create an inverse angle of that sound wave and it cancels it out. So that's how you cancel that noise. Active noise cancellation is mirroring the sound wave and it cancels it out. So it silences that. But imagine you've got that sound wave like this. All of a sudden you've got a gunshot, which is this.
Can't catch it.
It can't catch it. It can't reach it. Yeah. And so it's not going to do you any good. I see a lot of people shooting in AirPods and I'm like, no. It's not.
So it's just got this cap basically built in to where if the noise
and then
comes
we have
in,
completely blocked your ear canals. So it's like a solid earplug, essentially, is what you're relying on at that point.
So we're talking and a gunshot goes off. I can't continue to hear you talk with the gunshot. It's like just blocks everything out.
Right. But
then it goes back
it's
to
fast. It's instantaneous. Yeah.
And that's why the mold is so important.
Yes, the custom mold is so important. And there's products out there like decibels that are not inherently bad. I appreciate what they're trying to do, and it's certainly better than nothing.
What are they doing?
Decibels offer a product where like you heat up the putty that goes in your ear and then you put it in your ear and it kind of shapes to your ear. It's hard to get a really good seal, especially a depth of your ear canal with a decibels product. And then it's meant to change shape. So like even your own body temperature is going to heat it up a little bit. So it doesn't really hold. So even our
Is the concept though, like what's the concept?
The concept is just trying to block your ears.
Okay.
The concept is the same. Some companies will mail you a do-it-yourself kit at home. There are also some 3D scanners of the ear that I've looked at over the years, but they're just not there yet. When I look in your ears, and maybe you'll let me mold your ears today at some point.
Hey, that'd be great.
But when I look in your ears,
I've got my hearing.
First of all, I'm going to make sure that I see a good, healthy eardrum. And if I see anything that looks, iffy in there,
don't tell me I need hearing aids today.
So, and then I'm going to place a foam block deep in your ear canal, down close to your eardrum. And then I'm going to take what looks like a caulk gun, and I'm going to squirt it in your ear like silly putty. It's a 2-part epoxy. And I'm going to fill up your ear canals, and I use a special material that expands in your ear so you can kind of feel it pop and you feel it expand. And then after a couple of minutes, we take it out and we have a perfect form of your ear that goes past the second bend of your ear canal. So it's a deep, full ear mold impression.
So how do you do that with Johnny and Amarillo?
I send them to that clinic that
so
I
they
trust.
do. That's what they're doing in the clinic.
And that's what they do in the clinic. And then they give them to Johnny and Amarillo, gets those ear mold impressions, puts them in a box that the clinic gives them, slaps the label on them that we already emailed them,
and then
and they drop it in the mail.
Gotcha.
And then
is it a certain mold kit that the clinics are using? Did they already have it?
The clinics already have it. So with hearing aids, oftentimes hearing aids require a piece that goes in the ear, and then the hearing aid goes behind. So audiologists are trained to make ear mold impressions routinely.
Okay, well that's good. You don't have to teach them how to.
I don't have to teach them how to do it, and they are all credentialed. There's a lot of people out there that make custom hearing protection, especially at these sporting clay events that I run into that have no training. That's a whole different soapbox, and I've actually.
Well, you've got that in every industry, like. it'd be like me dealing with a discount brokerage.
Yeah.
Like these like lists
People who
for
aren't
nothing.
credentialed.
And it's like, let me see how
Who-
cheap I can do it just to kind of rope in the bargain
And
hunters.
it's not rocket science, but you can also do a lot of harm. I had a guy who was an instructor and actually ran a gun club in Texas, and his wife was working for me for a while. And I was out there at an event, and I wanted to mold him. I looked in his ears, and he had so much impacted earwax in there. And I put some drops in there. I tried to get it out. I got out what I could, but it still wasn't enough that I could safely make an ear mold on him. And he's like, "Are you kidding me? This guy out here that comes and sets up, he's made I don't know how many." I'm like, "That's why this has happened. It was impacting wax." And he was having all this trigeminal nerve pain, like all this pain on the side of his neck. And he went to see the doctor and all this stuff. And he had been telling me about this pain. And I sent him to an ear, nose, and throat doctor, and I'm like, you have got to get this cleaned out, and it's going to take more specialized equipment like suction and all this kind of stuff that I don't have on me.
Yeah.
So I sent him to get his ears cleaned out, and it resolved his issue. There was so much pressure that it was causing all this pain,
goodness.
and he was exploring all these different treatment options. It was impacted earwax from people shoving putty in his ears without properly.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah,
No.
that would be, yeah.
So I've
You're gonna have headwinds in every business, and I could see that being one. Just
That-
like
just the
trying to
education.
debunk the
education of it is a huge I won't say hurdle, but I would say mission that we
yeah,
have.
for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Man, that's really, really good. That's so interesting. I've never heard about a lot of that stuff.
Had you heard of OtoPro before being introduced to me?
I had heard of it.
You had?
Yeah.
Some people, I mean, a lot of people around here, especially people who see me, running around in my workout clothes or whatever, people are like, "Oh, wait, what do you do?"
Right.
And then I'll be introduced to people, a lot of times to very well-meaning, men who are being very nice, and they'll start giving me all kind of advice about how I need to potentially think about, how I could scale this and everything. And I'm going,
Have you gotten into the NASCAR world
we
yet?
have like 450 clinics that do this?
Yeah.
I mean, but
Or in
so-
other countries.
But in other countries, we actually do have a international footprint now. But then other times I meet people and they're like, "So how long have you worked for this OtoPro company? Tell me about this company you work for." And
That's so,
I mean, that is such a compliment to me because I'm
That's-
just like, "Oh, wow, really?"
that's so
It's really
funny.
just me and like a couple of people. We're a very, very small business.
I get that from time to time. Like, you work for Hopper? I'm like, I do.
I
My
know
dad
Hopper.
always wears our Hopper T-shirts, and he's like, "Man, I can't tell you how many times I've been like at Lowe's or something." They're like, "Oh, you work for Hopper?" And he's like, because I have him just running around doing things now that he's retired, and he's like, "Yeah, unfortunately, I do work for him." So I was a big NASCAR fan growing up.
Yeah.
Huge, like huge NASCAR fan as a kid. My grandparents lived close to Talladega. Anyway, that I'm curious, like, have you tapped into like the pit crew market of
I
NASCAR?
really haven't. I
they
really
seem like they'd
haven't.
probably also be the most stubborn. Like,
So we can make racing receivers, the specialty earpieces that they wear. I just haven't done a lot of it, honestly.
that'd be a cool market to get into.
That would be a cool market to get into. You want to take over development of that brand?
Yeah, I'll get in there. I'll
Get
be
yours.
here. I'll
You
be
go
here.
to a race.
I've been able to. I have a number of 1099 people who it's kind of like you eat what you kill. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
where
yeah.
if you are an audiologist, or even if you're just really interested and into it, if you're credentialed to do the ear mold impressions, I'll have you do that. But if not, I put people on commission and
Absolutely.
I'll send you out
That's-
there. I go sell some stuff. Go to NASCAR.
Look, I 1099 a lot of people. I'm all for it. I'll do that. Give me an OtoPro hat and all.
Well, that's what's allowed me to, when we had our big meat eater exposure, when we put our first branded product out there and proprietary product and all that, I hired several people to help us as we went through that big exponential period. And then as things start to plateau,
Right.
we can come up with systems and processes
Right.
that help us not to need as much hourly, a salary hour, whatever
Yeah.
kind of help, extra help.
That's
So,
awesome.
We might need some extra help after this episode comes out.
I hope so. That'd be
There you
great.
go. I like it.
Well, Paul's ready. I'll put you in an OtoPro t-shirt.
Hey, I'm all about some selling now.
You know, people have said, you know, you could sell ice to an Eskimo. I'm like, no, but I could sell a warm blanket to an Eskimo. I'll sell the Eskimo
Sell him what he
needs.
needs. That's what we're talking about.
You know, if I know you need it,
Yeah.
I mean, going back to, I'm still doing
The
the
beauty
same
with that
thing I
is you
started
don't-
out doing. I know you need this, and I know it will help you. And we're not just helping you do what you're doing right now. I recently started asking people.
I'm servicing you. This is not a sale. Like,
sent
it's
out-
not a sale
Right.
pitch.
I sent out this email asking people, like, what is a sound you never want to lose?
Oh.
And got so many responses back. And the responses were so sweet. These men who are these big tough guys, and they're writing about how, you know, their grandchildren or their kids singing in the backseat of the car, or the first turkey gobble of the season. You know, it's like these really soft and seemingly not so significant sounds, but like that's what we're trying to preserve.
Yep.
Like the richness, and you really start to think about it, about what those little sounds mean in your life.
That's
and
good
that's
stuff.
what we're helping you maintain so much longer. You know, I want you to be able to sit around the Thanksgiving table with your family and keep up with conversation, and not just be nodding and smiling and trying to talk to that one person that's on your good ear side. You know, let's keep that. Let's keep
Yes.
you engaged in those little things that are so enriching to the whole experience, personally, recreationally, all of it.
That's really
is so
good.
good.
And it's needed, like you said. That's sounds like I'm gonna be throwing my foam earplugs in the trash.
Sounds like you're gonna get fitted after this episode.
That's what it
I
sounds
think you
like.
are. I think you are. I never go anywhere without my little bag of supplies.
There you go.
I have fit
I bet
people in
you-
the Kroger parking lot. I mean,
I bet you
truly.
if you go to things where people are like, I guess like a NASCAR race or something, you'd be just looking at everybody's ears. Just
I look at people's ears all the time, constantly.
I bet he's full of earwax.
Oh man, constantly I'm looking at people's ears. And you know, I don't have any office space. People are like, I'll come see you. I'm like, well, I mean, you can come to my kitchen table.
Right.
I mean, we run such a lean business model. But
That's
that's
awesome.
what makes it so simple. I mean,
That's
I've got
huge.
such little overhead. I listened to your Storage
Man, that's
Max
awesome. Mm-hmm.
episode. Thought that was fantastic. I honestly thought Storage Max was some huge national chain. Had no idea it was actually just like a right
local.
here kind of a thing. It's amazing. But we used Storage Max for a long time for all of our back stock and inventory and everything. Well, with our recent move into this new house, I've now got the space to house it all there. So I mean, when I tell you little overhead, I mean,
That's awesome.
I wanna hear
we
all about
run
that.
really, really lean.
Yeah. I think with that, let's shift into episode 2 and talk more about the business structure. I mean, how I want to hear about manufacturing and like go back a little bit to like the start of the company, the hurdles that you had. Talk about your current business setup, where you get inspiration, and even from I've just been sitting here like just thinking all the things I want to ask you. Even your mentor through this, like I know you've had some mentorship through this, and like kind of breaking the mold and doing something different, getting the pulse check on like, does this make sense?
Yeah.
So I think let's move into episode 2 and talk about some of that.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all.